Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm making 10 planter sticks, so bulbous sticks for sewing different bulbs like onions and tulips and so on. I am starting from a couple of old oak chair legs that I cut about 18 centimeter pieces of so I can mount them on the lathe. The whole idea of this is something I've done before, but not from old oak legs. I just used some actual good wood I had around. But I wanted to see if I could actually just use old oak legs from a nice old oak table. And yeah, well, actually turned out quite well. The top of these are skewed at an angle to give a nice aesthetics when they were mounted to a table. But the table broke and, well, here we are. It's nice to be able to reuse old items instead of throwing them out or putting them on the wood pile. So all in all, as I said, we're gonna have about 10 of these. Next thing I'll do is I'll lay out where the 2 points of the lathe will go. This is now. I'll just center it, and then I'll start between centers on the lathe. And since they are kind of curvy, I'm just doing a rough estimate of the middle. I'm gonna reduce them in size quite a bit anyway. So after the little guitar solo, here we are. First things first, I am roughing out the shapes and getting them ready to go into the chuck. Because the chuck will support a more firm action and will allow me to take a much deeper cut and more aggressive cut. Whereas if I have them between centers, it might wobble on me and sometimes it'll catch more. So I make the little dip for the chuck and then we just keep going. And it's also just the fastest part because then you get the reduced size and you put it on the chuck and you just keep going like that. And sometimes they're not fully ready for centering, so just have to mash a new hole in it so it actually will fit. And here the roughing gouge is just an amazing tool. And I had recently, after this, I noticed my roughing gouge wasn't sharp enough, which is, yeah, of course, after you've made all of these, you notice that it's not sharp enough. So I had it all resharpened, and now it just works perfect. So I'm not gonna be voicing the whole thing fully. I'm just gonna be doing small intermittent parts. So here they all are, rough cut and ready to go. This is where they're ready for the chuck and to be mounted, and from here shaped into their final shapes. Some of the first ones I did more shaping on, but I realized it was better just to just do the rough, like the most rough part I could, and then go in and shape it later. And you can see here I have changed the center. So instead of a more flexible center, it's now a firm dead center. I also noticed, especially with this project, that my table is wobbling a bit. So over this week that I'm recording the voice over, at least, I'm going to be mounting it firmly to the wall instead of it just being mounted on a table. And here I'm just repeatedly changing the tip. So I shape the tip of the planter, then I change the center to one that has a dip in it so it can mount and keep a firm pressure. And then we just repeat that. I make two lines, one at 5 centimeters and one at 10 centimeters. And then I also burnish them and I burnish the top. And then I exchange it for a new one and rinse and repeat here for all 10. That's also why the video is sped up at 10 times speed. The whole process from start to finish took 3 hours, which I think is a fine time for making 10 planter sticks. And here we are at the midway point. We have now the rough shape and size. Basically now it's just finishing. So here it's just a lot of sandpaper and sometimes just taking the chisels and the gouges and just finalizing the shape. Some of them I do a little more on, but most of them have their final shape now. So, so For the sanding, I use Abranet. You can see sometimes it wobbles a little because it's hard to find it's hard to find the original point. That's why it's not always advisable to take so much in and out of the chuck. But I get it to work, and I compensate for the wobble. But as I'm saying, I use Abranet for these things here because otherwise the sandpaper will clog up, and that's just annoying. And then you have to change sandpaper more often. And I'm finishing with a coat, or actually 2 coats of linseed oil, and then some paste wax. Just a simple coating, deep protection, which will keep it nice while it goes in and out of the ground over the years. And as I said, some of them I true up the shape if it's too crazy or there's some roughing marks. Just take the gouge and we just finish the shape. Basically now it's just the lovely process of seeing them get their color. The lovely color of linseed oil on oak. And it's just so gorgeous. And when they get a little sun and they get worked a little, they'll become even darker and even more pretty. As you can see, the technique with the sandpaper is with the lathe running and then afterwards following the grain with the sandpaper, or with the apparat in this case. So get them all a nice coat, and then I put them over to dry, and then I work on later. And here we are. They get a final trip on the lathe where they get buffed with paste wax, and after that they are done. I dismount them just with my back saw and just working. It's actually not a lot of work when you have a nice sharp saw, and I find it sometimes easier than working it with my parting tool. Also, in that case, it's less quiet and it's less noisy. Less noisy, and there's less dust, so I don't have to wear my dust cover and ear protection. I can just work it with the saw, which is nice for a change when you're in the workshop. The life for all of these sticks is that they're going to my father's place, where they have a large garden with different bulbous plants, and they sell these on the weekends during the spring and the summer. So hopefully they'll get sold and they'll make somebody happy. So thank you very much for watching, and here enjoy the view of the planter sticks in the couch before their new life. Have an amazing day.